Welcome to Legal Intelligence, powered by IVIONICS, offering practical insights and innovative digital solutions.
Anyway, I'm glad to have you with us today.
Sure.
Director of Cybersecurity.
Yes.
Tell me a little bit about that.
Okay, so I oversee the operations for cybersecurity, meaning that all the different security services that we have. I manage and make sure that they're happy, they're operational, they're working properly, making sure they're current with current standards and cybersecurity requirements. On the other hand, we also deal with security alerts and notifications, and any escalations and incident responses. So, pretty much, it's day-to-day operations. You're trying to keep attackers out, and then for those that don't have the greatest security, we're there to help get them out of the bad situation.
Right. So when you say incidents and alerts, I can only imagine how many of those you get a day, right? So how do you sift through those and figure out what's real, what's legit, and what's not?
Okay. So, we get think about your environment, right? Your work environment, right? Normally in your day-to-day activities, you have logs and alerts and things that you're doing, right? What we're doing is we're grabbing logs of all the different things that are happening inside your company.
Right. Okay.
And what we look for is abnormalities inside that. Now, abnormalities could happen for any reason, right? They can happen, because a tech was working on something. It could be because something was malfunctioning. So you do get alerts on things that are not important sometimes. But it still requires somebody to go and view that alert and validate that alert to make sure that it wasn't something that could have been used for malicious purposes. So yeah, during a given course of day, we thousands of tickets that we're processing, and we have SOC specialists and analysts that will review that information, and we also leverage AI to some degree to work with our techs in a sense to get them more information about current campaigns that are running against the world and stuff like that, and that type of thing. But we do see some legitimate activity. Sometimes it might be like a business email account compromised, like a VEC, or somebody downloaded malware, or somebody clicked on a phishing email, something along those borders. And those are probably the most common ones.
Right.
And then you have worse ones. Worse was the word.
So I can imagine the ones where you see an email get compromised or an account get compromised. Those are pretty easy to sort through. They're kind of red flags, kind of pop out to you right away.
Oh yeah.
And then other ones are more kind of logs that you just have to confirm.
Exactly. You want noise, you want information, you want as much data to come out. So the idea is that the system's generating logs, right? You don't want to be alerted to every little thing.
Right. So overload. Yeah,
you don't want overload. But you do want to get enough information, enough noise, so that this way you can quantify what's going on the system. The idea is that when we get an alert, we're trying to uncover a story. Like, why did the alert come up? Like, what happened prior? Can we quantify that? What happened through other systems and tools that we have? So that's kind of how we manage.
Gotcha. Now you said something interesting that I like. You said it's basically uncovering a story.
Yes.
So basically, what you're trying to say is like, hey, this one alert may be something, maybe not something.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe there's 3 or 4 alerts that tie into that maybe same machine or same user or something like that now start uncovering a bigger story, like you said. And then now you might have to take a deeper dive and be like, wait, hold on, there's something going on here.
Oh, yeah. Sometimes, we cooperate information between different assets and different people. One of the things you can see is like, okay, well, as an example, somebody gets a phishing email. They fall for that phishing email. They give up their credentials.
Right.
Well, what's the next thing that they do with that account? They send emails out from that account to other employees.
Right.
So now you're deeper diving into those blogs for those users, and then trying to track down where it went and, how did it spread throughout the network. Yeah.
Kind of finding the cookie crumbs along the way.
All along the way, yeah. The devil's in the details.
Right. Now, another thing, too, is you were talking a little bit about I guess, things that are consistent and things that are inconsistent, things
Yeah.
that are kind of, this is normal or normal activity to this either client or normal activity to this user.
Yeah.
So is that something that you can leverage AI with to be like, hey, you know what? This client A, is always, I don't know, on a Monday morning at 11 o'clock, they're always sending these emails to particular clients or things like that because this is their normal routine.
You can.
And can you leverage your AI to kind of help you with that?
You can and you can't to some degree. I think there's always going to be a human element to it to a certain degree. And the reason for that is because, put it this way, right? Like there is it's called, SOC fatigue, or, it's like workplace fatigue. When you're looking at alerts, and a lot of alerts, and let's say like every single morning they do some abnormal activity, right? And we could turn off the alert, but the alert exists for a reason, right? So then the second portion of that comes in. So we don't turn off the alert, but the tech gets the alert every single day. So what does he do? Every morning he looks at it, he goes, this is nothing. But that 1 in a million chance could be something. So, that's just a training thing.
So how do you stop or prevent SOC fatigue then? That's an interesting word. I never heard that term before.
What?
So that's pretty interesting. SOC fatigue.
Oh, yeah.
So
it's
explain that a little bit more into detail, and then how do we stop that?
It's
Or
through
prevent that?
It's predominantly through training, and making sure that they understand what they, again, when we have these level of alerts, you don't want to inundate them with things that are irrelevant or not important. You want to try to get things to be relevant all the time. And even if there's a lot of relevant activity, well, then we need to process that relevant activity. But alternatively, maybe that turns into, well, maybe you need more than one person to do the job, and maybe that needs to be broken up to more people, because realistically, you can't let things like that slide. You got to have an attention for detail, and even just one small event can turn into a cascading.
Right, you can miss one thing and that's it.
That's it.
Right.
It turns into a much bigger issue.
Right.
Yeah.
So what are some of give me one of the most recent attacks that you had to deal with? An example without obviously giving too much away for the client.
Of course, yeah. I'm not going to be doing confidential information.
Right.
So the last alert that we processed was from we got from a user, and it was a phishing email. And then, we try to take these situations and train the techs with it. So phishing emails, it's funny because not everybody really understands the risk in just a simplistic phishing email. So what we did was we took it as a use case to show how it works. Right. So in this case, the email was sent to us. It's an email with an attachment of an Excel file. The Excel file has a link in it. Now, first off, why would you send an Excel with a link in it? You just send the link in the email. So
good question.
Should be the first thing that you're
a little bit fishy, right? A little sus.
Yeah, a little sus, right?
Okay.
And then, so for us, I'm showing my SOC analyst and, clicking on the link and bringing them to the webpage. The webpage is a complete knockoff of Microsoft Office 365.
Okay.
So it looks identical, right? And so it had some protection on the webpage so that you can't see into the code in the background, but we bypassed the protection and we looked at the code. All encrypted. And you could see it's crazy because the attackers go through great lengths to protect their code. So we reverse engineered their code because all of it's in the website. And I showed them the complexity that goes into a phishing campaign. And what it is like in this code, if you put your username and password in there, it validates and checks to make sure that the user exists by calling into Microsoft to validate that user exists. If you type in your username and password, right? You type in your username and password and you push submit, it'll reach out to Microsoft, check to see if you have MFA, check the version of MFA you have, and then report back and live change the MFA prompt on the website to mimic it so that you are duped into putting your MFA in. Wow. It's crazy. And while all this is going on, it's communicating to a command and control center.
Command and control center.
Sure.
Explain that a little bit more. So this is actually pretty sophisticated.
Oh, yeah, for sure. So, for such a simple website.
Right, exactly.
Just to type in your credentials.
Exactly. So going back to that control center.
Yes.
Or would you call it command
and control?
Okay.
Yeah.
Talk to me about that.
So command and control is that the attacker, it's organized in a sense that, listen, that web page is going to get taken down probably in a week, right? But the command and control center, that's where they're operating. The hackers are operating at. They don't want that to go down. And they don't want to have to change it repetitively. That's where they're keeping all the credentials. They're keeping all the tokens. They're keeping all your MFA.
So I'm picturing a bunch of people sitting in a room with like big screens in front of them, and they're all like watching like everything coming in. Like
probably a dark room, you guys
with hoods on.
Probably, yeah, with hoods on and stuff. But yeah, so these guys, those servers, they don't want them to go down as frequent, and they're probably replicated to other locations. So when those websites are, basically running like VPNs and other connections and encrypted communications back to the command and control center, so that this way they can hold all of your confidential credentials, and your MFA.
Right.
So once they gain access, they'll do one of two things: they'll either use that information themselves, or they will sell it on the dark web. Somebody's willing to pay for it.
So even having MFA doesn't even. Wow, it's another layer of protection.
Yeah, the thing is, Microsoft made a big shift and a big push quite a while ago to enforce the fact that everybody use MFA, which pushed the attackers to come up with new, innovative ways to get around MFA.
It's always a cat and mouse
game. Yeah. So what do we do now? Now we do MDM, is a good proponent of it, or passwordless authentications.
And go back MDM, just for everybody and listeners, what exactly is MDM?
So MDM is mobile device management. And what people typically think of it is probably wrong. Most people think that I'm going to enroll my phone or I'm going to enroll my laptop because the company wants to remote wipe it later on. That's normally the thought process, is to revoke data.
Right.
Not from the security standpoint. That's a small component of it for onboarding and offboarding procedures, right? But for me, it's a device authentication. So when you log into something, it's something something you have, something you are, right? Those are the important factors. For you, when you log in with a username and password and multi-factor, those things are very easily knocked off. But something you have is a device. And that's where you get, how does Microsoft, as an example, know that that device is registered to you? And that is MDM. So
interesting. Okay.
The idea is that you have a certificate that's on that phone, which is used as authentication. Not your username and password, not your MFA. It's a certificate that's on your phone. When that certificate, when you do your login scenario, it actually pulls that certificate to say, is this a trusted device? And then it allows you in. Now, same scenario, that website. You go to that website, you type in your username and password, you type in and you put your MFA in. The device is not authorized. Their command and control center, not authorized. The website, not authorized. Only your devices are. So effectively blocking that entire attack chain.
Gotcha. Okay. So you're right, though, because a lot of people, they hear, oh, you got to put this on my phone. It's such an inconvenience, and they're going to wipe my data or they'll, whatever. But really, it's
protection.
Way more than that.
Yeah, it's super important for me. It allows us to create a safe ecosystem. Without it, you run a risk. Because theoretically, then that means your username and password could be used anywhere. You can't isolate where you can use it.
Right. Interesting. And earlier, you actually said, too, you were able to take this Excel file that you had, you took a look at the link, and then you told me you clicked the link.
Yeah.
Well, as regular users, you're telling regular users, hey, don't click this link, whatever you do. So I'm sure in the security department, I'm sure you guys are doing something different when you click that link to allow you to look at it safely. So what does that look like?
I mean, yeah, you are accurate. I know, in the security department, I can open up malware. I can execute malware. We have ways to sandbox things, ways to do things more safely and make sure that we're not putting ourselves in harm's way at the same time. So essentially what we were doing is like a little bit of forensics work there, where we kind of, peek under the hood and like look at the engine bay and look at, all the components inside the car, like it's not just driving the car, it's how it operates underneath.
Looking at everything underneath. And you said sandbox.
Sure.
Sandbox means keeping everything isolated.
Yeah.
So like when I was a kid and I wasn't playing nice with the other kids in the playground, they would put me in a sandbox by myself. That's pretty much what we're...
Yeah, it's more equivalent to a playground. It's a place where you can go, have at it, not worry about anything.
A tech playground. I like it. Yeah. There you go. Okay.
Exactly. Yep. So, and it could be used for a lot of different things. It's not just for websites. It could be used for executing malware. Like we need to see what happens when you run this piece of malware. Sometimes it's not enough just to find the malware. Well, what if this ran on a client's location, right? Like we need to make sure, well, what did the attacker take? What did happen? Did it spread? Like you can't just assume, well, we deleted the virus, we're good.
Right.
We don't know what the virus did. It's always about uncovering the story.
Right. I like that. You keep going back to that, but I do like that, uncovering the story and digging a little bit deeper. That's pretty interesting because I never really thought about it too. It's like, all right, we removed the virus. All right, that's great. Well, we have no idea what was done.
Yeah.
And
Sometimes you can get the variant, and you might be able to find out specifically with that variant of. It's no different than if you got like the common cold versus COVID or something. Like we know what those two things do, so you can understand how to treat them.
Right.
But alternatively, like, when it comes to malware, there's variants too. Sometimes they're easy to identify, sometimes they're not.
So, just a crazy question. But if you have, let's say you discover a variant, right?
Yeah.
And you're just like, hey, I think I discovered this new variant of this new malware that nobody has seen before.
Sure.
Is there like a database or anything that you report this to for other security?
Oh, yeah. And we've done that.
Okay.
The vendor that we work with predominantly is SentinelOne. And I've submitted, a couple different ones to them that we've never seen before.
Right,
and
right.
ones that they actually have said that they'd never seen before.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah. That's going to be a pretty cool feeling, right? To be like, well, I discovered this. Maybe not when you're in it, discovering it, but afterwards, like, hey, look, I found this new variant.
Yeah. I mean, it's nice to give back to the community because you take so much from the community. I mean, the thing about cybersecurity is like a lot of it they're not going to teach in a book. Like you have to be in it, and kind of live and breathe it if that's the area of the world that you want to live in. So you're constantly sharing information amongst other professionals, so you feel it feels good to give back to the community when you can.
Right. Yeah. Sure. Cloudflare.
Sure. It's a web application protection system. So, one of which would be a WAF, WAF, web application firewall.
A WAF.
A WAF.
Interesting.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
But they, it's not just that. They have other protections, but predominantly from when you have a website and you need to protect that website. There's a lot of stuff that's...
Now, we go back. Protect that website. Protect it how?
Well, that's... Yeah.
Okay.
So Cloudflare comes in with that protection, right? So there's multiple things that we could think of that affect the website security-wise, right? One is denial of service attack, right? Denial of service means just that. Like, you're denying the ability to use your service by visiting that web page. Or what if it's, a payment portal system? Like, they're trying to block you from getting money,
right?
Or purchasing products, or
right, okay.
All these different things. So denial of service attack, and there was at a time, it was a few years ago, where hackers were doing denial of service attacks on companies and also websites, so that this way they could hurt the income of the company and then do a pay or else scheme. If you don't pay us, we'll keep on bringing down your site. I think the most of that kind of subsided because I don't think it was like a great business model for them. But denial of service attacks do happen. That's one of which that they do. The other thing is like a lot of times, they'll exploit systems with inside the code. Like let's say, for instance, you have a purchase system that's on there, and they're brute forcing passwords, or credit card numbers, or usernames and passwords. A lot of times, what a company will do is they'll put a CAPTCHA in. CAPTCHA is like, hey, let's verify you're a human.
Right.
But attackers
click all the bicycles and the wheels in the one little corner. Does that count as the square? Should I click that square? Yeah.
It's so crazy.
Yeah.
And with AI that's out there today, getting around CAPTCHA is even easier. So they got AI bots that will automatically bypass the CAPTCHA. So
interesting. Okay.
Yeah. And then hackers.
I never thought about that using AI.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
Because it's smart, and so they'll get around that stuff. And they've been getting around that stuff for a long time. And that's where Cloudflare comes in. You have
a robot, you have an AI robot confirming it's human.
Yeah.
To another robot. So the robot's asking, are you human? And the robot's going, yeah, I'm human. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it is interesting. But yeah, so it has like bot protection, things like that. It can detect like when things seem to fit a certain mold. Cloudflare itself has an AI function to it. to identify these things. And, you know, in the industry, it is probably the best WAF-based, you know, web application protection service that's out there. You know, very good product.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah.
And then, so then how did it get taken down? What was?
Well, they have a very complex back-end system.
Okay.
You know, and I think it heavily revolves around their denial of service system. You know, they use a proxy system. So almost like if you're the website and I'm the user, it's almost like it syncs us to somebody else, you know, a proxy first, and then the proxy kind of interprets what you're trying to do before getting to you. And that complex system that they have, you know, could have issues.
Gotcha.
You know, and, you know, it's been vulnerable to attack before, you know, but I don't think too much has really come from those types of attacks. It's more disruptive than anything else.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Some crazy stuff, but yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
Big takeaway I got from that is WAF. I like the
WAF, web application firewall. Yeah, no, I mean, it's you know, from the defensive side, that plays a role on things too, you know, because sometimes you might want to do a penetration test, or you might want to test the security of something. You know, the protection systems that we put in prohibit us from seeing the true results behind sometimes. So it's like there's always a little bit of a, you know, they're good, they're great for protecting you, and then when we're looking at things from the security side of things, like it could complicate our ability to see things sometimes.
Right, right.
Just part of the job, though.
Gotcha. Penetration tests, you just mentioned that too.
Yeah.
Those always sound fun to me.
Yeah, I mean, they're fun. You know,
I don't know. I heard a little bit of a in your voice there. So
I enjoy them too. So there's two portions to that, right? You have red teaming and blue teaming, right? Red teaming is the people that are doing the attacking and breaking in, and then you got blue team, the defenders that are trying to prevent that from happening. You know, more, yeah.
No, so that's interesting actually, because in my head, when I think penetration tests, I'm just thinking, here's a team who's just trying to break in.
Yes.
But you also have the, you know, tower defense of
Yes.
of everybody else who's no, we're not going to let you break in.
Yeah.
So that's interesting. So the client is known. Does the client know that this penetration test is happening? I'm assuming they do at some point.
The client does, and sometimes the blue team does or doesn't know. It depends on the engagement and what you're looking to get out of it.
Gotcha.
In my opinion, most of the time, I would say that the blue team shouldn't know, because it gives you a more truer understanding of how they are responding to events.
Right.
But the other aspect of a pen test is that you are attacking a network, and you could inadvertently take things down or affect their operations. And if you do that, well, then regardless if it's being a test, it's a live environment.
Sure.
You might want to let your blue team know.
Right.
So normally that's a judgment call based on the company, and it's based on whether or not they are concerned or not about that downtime, or, you know, I still find it to be rare that a pen tester will bring down a network, but it could happen.
Right.
So you got to
Sure.
make, you know, we don't operate in hypotheticals. We provide the factual evidence. Factual evidence is it could happen. So
Right.
The client will have to make a judgment on that. But yeah, there's a lot of value in a pen test. You know, the pen test is
Well, now that you say when you have the red team and blue team, I can see it already, because now I was thinking there was always one side, but now you have two sides that are really gaining value.
Yeah,
Or two ways to look at, you know.
We're always working together at the end of the day. Don't get me wrong, pen testers want to prove that they can break in.
Of course.
They got a little bit of an ego sometimes. But, you know, the idea here is that we want to quantify that the environment's safe. You know, we make security changes. We make, you know, changes over time. Sometimes things get implemented. Sometimes things get removed. We don't know if they were removed. We don't know if they were implemented properly. We don't know if the security tools that we purchased, and sometimes they're very expensive, are working.
Right.
So the pen test is supposed to bring validation to all of that, right? Like, without doing the pen test, how do you really know?
Right.
You know, and that's why on all the cybersecurity questionnaires that you see, it's always a question. Do you do, you know, penetration tests? And because it's the quantification, it's a third-party audit of your security systems to a certain degree, you know,
Right.
by allowing an attacker to break in.
Can red team utilize AI to help them start figuring out how to get through a network? Like, hey, I found this, you know, go to AI, you know, what are some ways to get around, you know, this roadblock or whatever I found, a log or an
It's
account or whatever.
It's a fine line. AI, if you're using a generalized large language model, and don't get me wrong, there's evil models that are out there that are used by hackers. But the generalized large language models, one of their main directives is not to harm humans. So if it gets a sense that you're doing something to hurt humanity in some way, the large language model is going to stop the conversation, regardless of whatever it is about. But knowing that hackers can kind of finagle the system to make it look like a more IT-based question rather than a negative question.
Right, more of a general question or
exactly.
Right.
I would say AI's interpretation of people's, personalities isn't always accurate, or what their interpretation of the question actually isn't always accurate. Maybe a little bit of a hallucination there. But do they use AI? Yes, they do use AI. There is complete AI-based penetration tests where the AI will completely do the penetration test on its own. Companies are out there working on this today.
Interesting. Okay. I thought about that.
So today, I've talked to a couple of these companies. Right now, it's not vetted out enough. So I still largely think that people should have hands on keyboard, which means a true human perform the action. Right. The problem is that it doesn't move like a human should when it's doing the penetration testing. So, a penetration tester is, again, trying to create a story, and almost trying to create like a map of your environment. And a large portion of what they do in the beginning is like recon, which is just what's open, what's accessible, what's the surface area of attack, what's the version numbers out there, as much possible information. The AI tends to attack a single object, and that's just it. Just attacks the object. The penetration tester is trying to leverage all the information of all your environment and trying to see, well, you have this here and this here, but those things combined allow me to do this.
Right, right.
So the AI loses the ability to multitask in that way. So don't get me wrong, in the next 5 years, I'm sure it'll be able to do it, but just not today.
So I remember speaking to you in general about something else, and I remember you bringing up Notebook LLM by Google, which is basically like, hey, this this AI is only going to use whatever you tell it to reference. Yeah. So is there a way, is that what you mean? Like, is there a way that we're just going to be like, hey, here's a pen test AI, and we're only going to reference, specific types of,
So there's LLMs that are very specific to their task. I mean, like, Google has them, OpenAI has them, everybody, like, they're all curated to the performance of the certain thing that they're doing. So they're trained in that fashion. Right. And yes, for penetration testing, I'm sure they're leveraging that in a specific way that's basically trained in the ways of using Kali Linux commands or, bash shell code or, Metasploit or, other, open repositories of information where they could use to break into a network from. And Notebook LM is kind of like a layman's version of being able to do that without being on a corporate scale. So what's nice about Notebook LM is that you can take your own personal documents, throw them up in there, and then you can almost use it as like a mini, for me, like, it would be a Wayne version of, so I'll have a whole bunch of security documents in there. And what's great about that is that, you can explicitly reference information that's within inside that LLM.
So if I took my instruction manual from my refrigerator and threw it in my own Notebook LLM, and then later on was like, man, tell me how to fix, what's the part number I need to replace the light bulb in this refrigerator.
And it would be able reference to tell you where it is in the document. And how
so that's pretty cool. So you can actually,
awesome, So like for me, for what I do in cybersecurity, sometimes I got to be very, very particular and very precise in how I word something and how it is referenced within inside like a security framework. So like, let's say, for instance, I'm working within, NIST 853, which is like a baseline security protocol from the federal government, right? Like I'll upload the PDF, which could be 200, 300 pages into Notebook LM. It's publicly available information. So,
Right.
But then if I got a question, I could be like, hey, does, all machines need to be encrypted? Do all workstations need to be encrypted? And it'll be like, yes, it's referenced in like 50 different locations.
But it must pull that data much quicker because it's not searching the entire web and it's literally searching just this document. So it's going to pull up everything much quicker.
It's not even so much quicker, it's accurate. The thing is that when you use a large language model that's generalized, like ChatGPT or Gemini or whatever you use, Grok, the problem with that is that it will convolute the question. A lot of I've asked it many times questions about frameworks, and I'll be talking about NIST, and then it'll reference ISO. Or reference CIS controls. So, like, these are all different security frameworks, and it's like, wasn't really my question. Right? Meanwhile, like, if a client's asking me questions about this framework, like, it almost makes it so that I can't use AI now.
Right.
So Notebook LM gives me back that ability with being precise and accurate with references available, which is great.
Right. It's actually interesting because I think a lot of people think of AI and they think of it like just AI. Everything's AI, right? AI. But they don't really realize that there was actually specific AIs for specific purposes and things like that, so which is pretty cool.
Yeah. I mean, and even, leveraging AI is, it's a new thing. Like, if you look online and you probably see, like, people will be like, oh, did you know you can use these 5 amazing prompts? But they're not wrong, some of those documents.
Okay.
It was one of the ones that I saw the other day. It was, don't ask the question of what you're trying to solve. Ask it to solve the question. And I was like, that's an interesting thing. So have it ask you the question to get to the resolution because it knows what it's looking for. You don't. You're trying to guess what it's looking for.
Right.
And I was like, that was an interesting concept because it's really what it is. It's a brand new tool, and we haven't figured out all the different ways to use that tool yet.
Right.
So even just our interaction alone is going to evolve over the course of the next 1 or 2 years. One of the things that we were talking about in our SOC department was like we're leveraging AI more and more in how we process and understand alerts. And we were thinking like, okay, so we run into complexity of running linearly. Like we ask a question to the AI, the AI responds with an answer, and then we were thinking like, well, are we just thinking more like a human and not like a computer? Because that's not how computers think. Like, why are we asking one question? We can ask 50 questions.
Right.
And have 50 transactional things going on at the same time. And to have multiple LLMs doing things all at the same time. So how does that change the landscape? And how do we do it? So all this stuff is going to kind of evolve.
It's pretty interesting.
And it's a little complex.
Yeah. And what's interesting, too, is the internet comes out, web comes out, then eventually they come out with the dark web.
Yes.
Right. And then what's interesting is you mentioned to me before, you were like, there's evil LLMs.
Yes.
And again, or dark, whatever you want to call them. But to me, it's like, you have dark web and now you have dark AI.
Oh, dark AI.
And it's interesting because I didn't think of that part either. That's something that, so of course, there's always going to be, we got this great tool. Let's find a way to use it for evil. And
everybody's trying to, organized crime is organized crime. They're always going to be trying to find new, innovative ways to promote their businesses, no different than a regular business would. So as these tools become available, they're going to be coming out with their tool sets at the same time.
Right.
And that's where it's, always going to be to a certain degree a cat and mouse game. It doesn't stop. It enables and empowers them. So all the low hanging fruit people out there not doing enough, like they'd be the first ones to get picked off. Hopefully the ones into the mid to the high range that are doing most of the stuff right, they'll adopt and move forward with their security initiatives and keep up with, the security changes.
It's just a constant cat and mouse game.
Yeah.
So fun stuff.
Yeah, it's always fun stuff.
There you go. Well, Wayne, I appreciate you coming on board and talking with me, and it was really fun.
All right. Yeah, absolutely. It's a lot of fun. We'll do it again sometime.
You got it.
Thanks for tuning in to Legal Intelligence powered by IVIONICS, where we break down tech, innovation, and insights for the modern law firm. If you found value in today's episode, don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a review. It really helps us reach more listeners like you. Until next time, stay secure, stay smart, and keep leading with innovation.